Hey you guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Ruby, I live in New York City, and this is my lifestyle channel, so be sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are trying to reach 7K, that is the next goal here for this channel, and also be sure to go ahead and follow me on TikTok. I post daily content over there, and our next goal for TikTok is 25,000. No surprise here, today we are going to be diving right into all of the books that I read during the month of April. This is a monthly series that I do on my YouTube channel where I kind of like recap every single book that I've read during the month. I read the synopsis, we do a mini review. It's a super fun, chatty, kind of like casual video. I am a huge reader though. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm especially passionate about my Kindle. It's literally like where I do pretty much all my reading. I still get so many questions on my Kindle and the case and everything, so I always have these two products linked down below in the description box for all of the monthly like reading videos. By the way, I just wanted to mention that because I still just get like so many questions on this. It's the Kindle Oasis. It's my favorite Kindle. The Paperwhite is great too. I've definitely recommended that before, but if you're a huge reader and you want to make the investment, I like absolutely love this thing. You guys know that. Without further ado though, I just think we should dive in. I am so excited to talk about the books that I read this month. I mean, I'm excited every single month, but some of these books I had been waiting to like get off the wait list for literally months. When I can, I try and use the Libby library app just because it definitely like saves a little bit of money and you're supporting libraries. So, but because of that, oftentimes you do have to like be put on a wait list even if it's for an electronic copy of a book. But this was the month, and May actually, where so many books that I've been dying to read I'm like finally off the wait list for. So let's just dive in and get started. Like I said, the first book that I read during the month of April was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. You guys know, this year has been the year of me like diving into all of Taylor's books, and this is the one that honestly I was the most excited to read, but it took me so long to get off the wait list. Let's dive into the summary first. Obviously I read these off my phone, so apologies for like not looking in the viewfinder or not looking at the camera, sorry. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dune. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting and unforgettable novel written as an oral history of one of the biggest bands in the 70s. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a writer who takes her work to a new level with Daisy Jones and the Six, brilliantly capturing a place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. I'm just gonna say it before I kind of dive into talking about everything that this book was. This, hands down, is my favorite book of Taylor's, and kind of, I guess, like a little spoiler alert, this month, for the month of May, I'm reading one of their other most popular books, and I'm really enjoying it, but this is still my favorite. And Daisy Jones and the Six is also just like one of my favorite books I've ever read. I truly cannot believe that it's a fiction book. It was written so well and in such a unique, very distinctive way. So like the summary said, it's written as like an oral history, so multiple interviews with all of the different members of the band and anyone who really had to do with the kind of upbringing of Daisy Jones and the Six, or anyone who really had to do with any of like the main players in the story. It was written almost like an oral history meets like a script for a movie or for a play. For those who don't know, I am a huge music lover, but not only that, my mom is actually in the music business, and so reading this book, I felt like I just had this extra connection to it. I've always really connected to music too from like the 60s and 70s, so there was just something really special about the overall feeling. It was one of those books that I felt like I was like racing through and flying through because I just wanted to see how it ended, but I was also savoring it at the same time because I knew once I finished this book, I would never be able to reread it for the first time ever again. And like, sure, rereading a book as magnificent as this still definitely has an impact, but when you're reading it for the first time, it's just like so special. I don't know any other way to explain it. It was such a page turner. It was so raw and real, and I guess kind of like a spoiler alert, but I'm gonna say, or try and stay stay away from spoilers. Once you learn who the person who's conducting the interviews is, it really does give like a whole new light to the story. Obviously the story is fictional, but when you learn the character who is supposedly like giving these interviews in the story, it really does kind of like, it's just really eye-opening. I felt like it very much depicted, obviously some things were kind of over-exaggerated and some things it's just like not the way that things go in the music industry, but overall I still felt like it was a very real depiction of kind of the struggle with fame and being a solo artist versus being in a band. And obviously I haven't gone through any of those things personally yet, at least, but having grown up in the music industry with a parent who's a very prominent figure in the music industry, you just kind of see a lot and you know a lot, and you also know what's false, but you also know what's true. This book kind of covered everything, like sex, drugs, rock and roll, and everything in between, but it was so just like, it was just so special. You were rooting for all of the characters in their own individual ways. You felt for each of them. Each of them had such a distinctive voice in the story. There wasn't anybody who I thought wasn't a necessary character. I think that anybody and everybody would love this book. It is such a fun ride. It's definitely like more mature content, so if you're one of my younger viewers watching this video, I would definitely like check with your parents first or read some reviews first. I don't actually have that many like younger viewers on my channel, but I'm sure that there are a few, so I just kind of want to put that out there. Everything that I read typically is a bit more like mature content, or if it's something like a biography or a self-help book, I feel like it might be like too dense for a younger viewer per se. If you couldn't tell already, this book gets a 5 out of 5 from me. I truly like, there's just no other way to describe it other than it was such a special read. It absolutely lives up to the hype. I believe they're turning it into a TV show for Amazon Prime, which I cannot wait to see. I kind of wish they'd make it into a movie, but at the same time I understand like why it could benefit from being a TV show as well. There's a lot of like ground to cover. Okay, so obviously loved that book. I feel like I've talked about it enough. Daisy Jones and the Six. I am a forever fan of yours. I've told everybody to read that book if they haven't already. I told my mom to read it too because I thought she would really enjoy it. The second book that I read during the month of April was The Last Mrs Parish, and this is a book again that I'd heard a ton about and I knew that it would really be up my alley. You guys know I love thrillers. I don't love like super scary books for the sake of being scary, but I love psychological thrillers that really make you think or have a really fun plot twist to them. So let's get into the synopsis. I feel like my hair looks crazy. I keep looking in the viewfinder. Okay, but here's the synopsis. Amber Patterson is fed up. She's tired of being a nobody, a plain invisible woman who blends into the background. She deserves more, a life of money and power like the one blonde-haired, blue-eyed goddess Daphne Parish takes for granted. To everyone in the exclusive town of Bishop's Harbor, Connecticut, Daphne, a socialite and philanthropist, and her real estate mogul husband Jackson are a couple straight out of a fairy tale. Amber's envy could eat her alive if she didn't have a plan. Amber uses Daphne's compassion and caring to insinuate herself into the family's life, the first step in a meticulous scheme to undermine her. Before long, Amber is Daphne's closest confidant, traveling to Europe with the Parishes and their lovely young daughters and growing closer to Jackson. But a skeleton from her past may undermine everything that Amber has worked towards, and if it is discovered, her well-laid plan may fall to pieces. With shocking turns and dark secrets that will keep you guessing until the very end, The Last Mrs Parish is a fresh, juicy, and utterly addictive thriller from a diabolically imaginative talent. Diabolically imaginative. That's a great little couple of words right there. So again, here comes some spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, skip ahead, or you know, you do you, but I don't like spoilers, so I would be skipping ahead if I hadn't read this. I will say, even though this is a fictional book, I do think that there should have been some sort of trigger warning prior to reading this. I was actually listening to a podcast recently where they were debating whether or not books should have trigger warnings similarly to movies or TV shows. I absolutely think that they should, because even if it's a fictional book, if it's touching on triggering topics and you don't let the reader know that beforehand, it can be quite damaging. So I'm just gonna say this here in case somebody's watching and hasn't read the book yet. I would definitely give a trigger warning for abusive relationships. I'm gonna give this book a 4 out of 5 for me, because like I said at the end of the book, it's very interesting because on one hand, the author makes you feel as if you're supposed to be happy that Amber ended up with Jackson and that evil and evil are together. Like I said, regardless of how, you know, evil somebody is, I don't believe that anybody should be in an abusive relationship. So it was kind of a strange ending where it was like, obviously we are rooting for Daphne, but she didn't warn Amber about the relationship that she was getting into. So, you know, it kind of leaves the reader not quite sure if we're rooting for anyone, who we should be rooting for. It is a little confusing, like if Daphne was such a good, pure, true character and the one that you were rooting for, even though Amber is such a horrible and insufferable person, why did she subject Amber to the life that she knew she was? And why didn't she warn her? Why didn't she tell her anything? And so, yeah, it just, like, I'm just not sure. It left me with like some feelings. Okay, so the last book that I read during the month of April was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Now this is a book again that I feel like everybody and my mother has been talking about recently. It gained so much popularity, honestly through TikTok, I feel, and I wanted to read it because I wanted to be a part of the conversation. I thought, just like going into it blind, I thought that this was like a really young adult novel because first of all, and not to generalize, like look at the cover. It just looks young, right? And so I thought like, oh my gosh, am I gonna start reading this and then like immediately regret it because I feel like I'm back in middle school? But let's read the synopsis first. Here we go. As a third-year PhD candidate, Olive Smith doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what gets her into the situation. Convincing her best friend that Olive is dating and well on her way to a happily ever after was always going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. Scientists require proof, so like any self-respecting biologist, Olive panics and kisses the first man that she sees. That man is none other than Adam Carlson, a young hotshot professor and well-known ass, which is why Olive is positively floored when Stanford's reigning lab tyrant agrees to keep her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. But when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. Suddenly, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion, and Olive discovers that the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under a microscope. So, no surprise after reading the synopsis there, this story is about two people who start in a fake relationship. By the end of the book, they are in a real relationship. This book was fun. It was cute. It was romantic. Let me tell you, not a YA novel. This book was so steamy and so explicit at times in terms of like romantic and sexual things. That's kind of the best way to say it. I still want to keep it like kind of PG here on this channel because I don't want to be demonetized. But there were a couple of scenes where I literally would like stop reading. I'd find Kevin and I'd be like, this book is like so much steamier than what I thought it was going to be. So not a YA novel, not a middle school read, but still very fun. I couldn't put this book down. I thought it was hilarious, but I also thought it was really heartfelt and real at times and honest. I loved the characters of Olive and Adam. I feel like they were the perfect pairing. This book must be turned into a movie. And it's funny because everybody's saying that about The Last Mrs Parish, that it should be turned into a movie. I kind of feel like there's no need. It shouldn't. I feel like it could get way too dark. This movie, on the other hand, like I need to start a petition because it was so much fun. It's a really fun read. I feel like I got through it so quickly. I think I read this book within like 2 days, and it's definitely like a longer book, but it just flew by for me. I will say, kind of like another trigger warning for this book, I guess it does touch on sexual assault and harassment in the workplace, and it's definitely not as heavy as The Last Mrs Parish by any means, but I still just do kind of want to say that, especially it touches on it all kind of like in a university setting, so if that's, you know, especially triggering, I would maybe skip over this, even though that's not the main part of the book. It definitely is a pretty substantial part of the book. I love how awkward the character of Olive was. At times it was like very cringy, but still funny, and at first like I really didn't get the character of Adam, but by the middle of the book, like I totally did, and I just loved kind of reading his like growth and maturity, and I just was really rooting for those two characters, and I really do think, like, as funny as it is, they might be one of my favorite like book pairings. I really liked the writing style. I know that I've seen some reviews who were like, loved the book, but I feel like the writing style was a little bit like sophomoric, if you will. I didn't feel that way. I mean, yes, it was an easy read, it was a light read, but I didn't feel like it was like super simple. I'm gonna give this book a 5 out of 5. Now, in the grand scheme of things as far as the books that I've given 5 out of 5s to, like, do I think it's the most dense and it's the most life-changing? Absolutely not, but it's fun, it's romantic, it's flirty, and I just really enjoyed it. I definitely thought it like lived up to the hype. I was, you know, really pleasantly surprised, and I'd be really interested to read more from Allie. I haven't really looked into like what other books she's written, but I really did like this one. But there you guys have it. Those are all the books that I read during the month of April. I really hope that you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and click that subscribe button down below. Again, we're trying to reach 7K. That's the next goal here for this channel. Be sure to follow me on all of my other social media networks as well: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse. Check out my Amazon shop, my like to know it page. I have tons of links in the description box. It's always something to check out. I also have some discount codes to sites that I think that you guys will really enjoy, or things that I've talked about a lot. So anyways, just like basically check out the description box. There's lots of fun information there. I love you guys so much. I hope that you all are staying safe, happy, and healthy, and I will talk to you guys again very soon in my next video. Okay? Bye everybody.